The detection chief scanner Vexus had served the Kelthera Empire for 23 cycles, monitoring the vast emptiness between star systems. His scales had dulled from their youthful emerald shine to a weathered gray-green, marking him as one of the most experienced operators in the Imperial detection network. Tonight should have been like any other night, quiet, predictable, safe. The detection station orbited the outermost planet of the Kelthera home system, a massive facility housing 300 personnel dedicated to watching the void. Their sensors reached across dozens of light years, tracking every asteroid, comet, and vessel that moved through their territory. The Empire had built its strength on information, on knowing everything that happened within their domain long before it became a threat. Vexus was reviewing routine traffic reports when his primary console erupted with alerts. Red indicators flashed across every screen. Warning tones filled the chamber with their harsh mechanical screams. His secondary hearts began racing while his primary heart maintained its steady rhythm, a biological response that helped his species stay calm during emergencies. He silenced the alarms and focused on the data streaming across his displays. What he saw made no sense whatsoever. An object was moving through deep space at velocities that contradicted every known law of physics. According to the sensors, it was traveling at nearly 80% of light. Speed. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. The fastest vessels in the Kelthera Empire could barely achieve 4% of light speed, and that required months of acceleration, using fusion drives that consumed enormous quantities of fuel. The energy needed to push a ship to 80% would be astronomical, literally requiring the power output of a small star. Vexus initiated a full diagnostic sweep of the sensor array. Perhaps the equipment had malfunctioned. Perhaps cosmic radiation had corrupted the data streams. Perhaps he was experiencing a hallucination brought on by too many hours staring at screens. The diagnostic completed in 47 seconds. Every system functioned perfectly. Calibration readings were nominal. The data was accurate. The object was real, and it was moving impossibly fast. His manipulator claws trembled slightly as he activated the secondary sensor network. 3 additional stations positioned around the system began feeding him confirmation data. All of them detected the same anomaly. All of them registered the same impossible speed. Vexus opened an emergency channel to High Commander Zareth, bypassing all standard protocols. His voice came out steady despite the chaos of his thoughts. High Commander, we have a critical situation developing. Priority Alpha classification. You need to see this immediately. Zareth arrived within minutes, his crimson command armor gleaming under the station's lights. He was younger than Vexus, but his military record was legendary. He had commanded fleets in the border wars, had negotiated peace with the Selvax Confederation, and had restructured the entire Imperial defense network. He was not someone who frightened easily, but when Vexus showed him the sensor data, Zareth's scales shifted to a pale yellow, the Kelthera, equivalent of going white with shock. This cannot be real, Zareth said, but his voice lacked conviction. I have verified it through 4 independent sensor arrays, Vexus replied. The object is definitely there, moving at 0.8 light speed. No signatures match anything in our databases. No known civilization possesses this technology. Zareth studied the trajectory calculations displayed on the screens. His expression darkened further. It is heading directly toward our territory. Yes, High Commander. At current velocity, it will reach our outer defense perimeter in approximately 14 hours. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush stone. 14 hours. Less than 1 day to prepare for something that defied understanding. Zareth straightened, his military training overriding his shock. Activate Condition Crimson across all Imperial systems. Wake the Supreme Council. I want every battle cruiser, every defense station, every weapon platform on maximum alert. Deploy the 3rd and 7th fleets to intercept positions along the projected path. Within the hour, the entire Kelthera Empire transformed from peaceful routine into organized military readiness. Across 37 star systems, spanning 200 inhabited worlds, billions of citizens watched emergency broadcasts explaining that an unknown threat approached their borders. Scientists gathered in research centers, analyzing the impossible physics of what they were seeing. Military strategists planned defensive scenarios. Politicians debated whether this represented first contact with a new civilization or an invasion by something beyond their comprehension. Supreme Counselor Thane convened an emergency session in the Grand Assembly chamber on the capital world of Kelthar Prime. Representatives from all major species within the Empire attended via holographic projection, their various forms creating a gallery of biological diversity. Avian Sulvax perched on elevated platforms. Aquatic Morsith floated in specialized tanks. Massive Gorlax stood like living mountains, all of them united under Kelthera leadership. The central display showed Vexus's sensor data playing on an endless loop. The impossible vessel, moving at impossible speeds, approaching from the depths of unexplored space. How is this possible? Demanded Representative Cross, a Sulvax whose feathers ruffled with agitation. Our best scientists say such speeds would require energy equal to our entire civilization's annual output. Vexus stood before them, feeling the weight of hundreds of eyes upon him. We have no explanation, Counselor. The thermal signatures alone should indicate a vessel vaporizing from friction with interstellar particles. Yet the object shows no signs of damage or decay. It maintains course and speed without deviation. Could this be a weapon? Asked Representative Morven, a Morsith whose tentacles writhed with concern. A projectile launched by an enemy? High Commander Zareth pulled up tactical projections. If hostile, we have positioned 83 capital ships along its trajectory. Our firepower is sufficient to destroy anything we have ever encountered. However, he paused, and everyone understood what remained unsaid. If something could move at those speeds, conventional weapons might prove useless. Supreme Counselor Thane raised one clawed hand, and the chamber fell silent. He was ancient, his scales nearly white with age, but his mind remained sharp. Prepare first contact protocols. If this represents a new civilization, we must attempt communication before considering military action. Our empire was built on diplomacy and cooperation, not fear and aggression. For the next 12 hours, the empire existed in a state of controlled tension. Vexus never left his console, tracking the object as it crossed distances that should have taken weeks in mere hours. Additional technicians crowded into the detection center, triple-checking every calculation, searching for any additional information about the mysterious vessel. The military fleets took up defensive formations, creating a wall of firepower that could devastate entire planets. Diplomats prepared greeting messages in 400 known languages, broadcasting them toward the approaching object on every possible frequency. Scientists worked frantically, trying to understand the physics that allowed such movement. Theoretical models were constructed and discarded. Mathematical equations filled screens and were erased. Nothing explained what they were witnessing then. When the object was still 8 light hours from the Empire's border, something extraordinary happened. Vexus watched in amazement as the impossible vessel began to decelerate. The energy readings spiked dramatically, showing power expenditure that dwarfed anything the Kelthera had ever measured. Within 17 minutes, it had dropped from 80% of light speed to a complete stop dot and now sat motionless, positioned exactly at the boundary of Imperial territory. It stopped, Vexus whispered into his communication channel. Zareth's voice came back immediately, sharp with tension. Confirm that reading. Confirmed, High Commander. The object has achieved complete stop at our territorial border. It appears to be ... waiting. Throughout the Empire, people exchanged nervous glances. An unknown vessel with impossible technology had traveled across unimaginable distances, only to halt precisely at their boundary. It had not attacked. It had not attempted stealth or evasion. It simply waited, as though seeking permission to proceed. Supreme Counselor Thane stared at the display for a long moment. His ancient eyes reflected centuries of wisdom and experience, yet even he looked uncertain now. Send the first contact messages on all frequencies and all known languages. And pray to the ancient stars that whatever is out there comes in peace and not in conquest. Vexus initiated the communication protocols, broadcasting mathematical sequences, universal greetings, and offers of peaceful dialogue into the void. The messages traveled at light speed toward the mysterious vessel, carrying with them the hopes and fears of an entire civilization. ***. But the vessel remained silent. It sat there in the darkness, between stars, its presence a question that no one in the Kelthera Empire could answer. Hours passed with no response. The silence felt more ominous than any threat. For 3 days, it would continue waiting. 3 days during which the most powerful empire in known space tried desperately to understand what had arrived at their doorstep, and whether they should welcome it or fear it. The impossible ship held its position, patient and inscrutable, while an empire held its breath. First Contact 3. Days of silence had stretched every nerve in the Kelthera Empire to its breaking point. Supreme Counselor Thane sat in his private chambers, staring at reports that offered no answers. The mysterious vessel remained at their border, unmoving, unresponsive, unknowable. Military analysts had calculated every possible attack scenario. Scientists had proposed 17 different theories about the ship's propulsion system. Diplomats had broadcast messages in every conceivable format. Nothing had worked. Finally, Thane made a decision that would either save the Empire or doom it. He authorized a direct approach mission. If the unknown vessel would not speak, perhaps a face-to-face encounter might yield results. Ambassador Lyran stood in the shuttle bay, adjusting the ceremonial sash that marked her diplomatic status. She was a veteran negotiator who had brokered peace between warring species and established trade agreements across a dozen star systems. Her silver scales were marked with the blue patterns that indicated her family's ancient diplomatic lineage. But even with all her experience, she had never faced anything like this. High Commander Zareth approached, his expression grave. "Ambassador, you understand the risk? We have no idea what you will find inside that vessel. No idea if they are peaceful or hostile." "I understand, Commander. But someone must take the first step. Diplomacy requires courage as much as wisdom." The shuttle departed from the detection station, moving slowly and deliberately toward the mysterious vessel. Behind it, 83 warships maintained their positions, weapons charged but not locked. Every sensor in the Empire watched. Every screen across 37 star systems displayed the live feed. Lyran sat in the passenger compartment, reviewing everything they knew about the vessel, which was frustratingly little. It was smaller than expected, perhaps 300 meters in length. Its hull appeared smooth and dark, with no visible seams or features. No lights blinked along its surface. No markings identified its origin or purpose. "We are within visual range," announced the pilot, a young Solvax named Terex, whose feathers betrayed his nervousness. Through the viewport, Lyran saw the vessel for the first time with her own eyes rather than through sensor displays. It looked almost organic, like something grown rather than built. The surface seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating an unsettling visual effect. "Still no response to our hails," reported the communications officer, a Morsith named Quilva, whose tentacles moved in patterns that indicated frustration. Lyran made a decision. "Take us closer." Perhaps they need to see our intentions are peaceful. The shuttle drifted forward, closing the distance meter by meter. Lyran expected something to happen, a warning, a scan, some acknowledgement of their presence. But the vessel remained inert, mysterious, silent. Then, when they came within 50 meters, every speaker in the shuttle activated simultaneously with a burst of static. Lyran's hearts raced as a voice emerged from the noise, speaking in perfect Kelthera common tongue. "This is the Terran vessel Pathfinder. We apologize for our delayed response. Our crew has been in suspended animation during the journey, and revival protocols required 72 hours to complete safely. We detected your civilization's electromagnetic transmissions 217 years ago and have traveled from Earth to establish peaceful contact. We request permission to proceed with diplomatic protocols." The pilot's claws froze on the controls. The communications officer's tentacles went rigid with shock. Lyran felt her own. Breathing stopped momentarily as the implications crashed through her mind. 217 years of travel. The statement hung in the air like a physical presence. Lyran quickly calculated the mathematics. If this vessel had taken over 2 centuries to reach them at those incredible speeds, Earth must lie impossibly far away. 450 light years, perhaps more. That distance was beyond anything the Kelthera had ever imagined traversing. "This is Ambassador Lyran of the Kelthera Empire," she managed to say, keeping her voice steady through sheer force of will. "We welcome peaceful contact with your species. However, we have no records of humans or Earth in our extensive databases. Can you provide additional information about your point of origin?" A brief pause. Then the voice returned, and Lyran detected something in its tone, not quite emotion, but perhaps the echo of long patience finally rewarded. "We originate from a G-type star system, located 463 light-years from your current position. We understand you have no prior knowledge of us. Our region of space lies beyond your exploration range. That is precisely why we undertook this journey, to bridge the distance between our civilizations and establish first contact. 463 light-years. The number seemed to mock everything the Kelthera thought they knew about galactic civilization. Their furthest colony lay merely 42 light-years from the homeworld. This vessel had crossed more than 10 times that distance. "How did you learn our language?" Lyran asked, her scientific curiosity overriding diplomatic protocol for a moment. "We have been receiving your radio and television broadcasts for approximately 250 years. The voice explained. "Electromagnetic radiation travels at light speed. Your civilization's earliest transmissions reached our solar system during what you would consider your classical period. We have studied your language, your culture, your art, your science. We learned everything we could about the Kelthera and the species within your empire before undertaking this voyage. Of course, radio waves expanding outward from Kelther Prime at the speed of light, carrying information about their civilization into the cosmos. These humans had been listening and watching for centuries, preparing themselves for a meeting they could not guarantee would ever happen. We formally request permission to dock at one of your facilities," the voice continued. "We understand this situation is unprecedented. We are prepared to submit to any security measures you deem necessary. We will answer any questions and provide any information required to establish trust between our peoples." Lyran opened a secure channel back to the detection station. Supreme Counselor Thane appeared on her screen, his ancient face showing the strain of 3 sleepless days. "You heard everything, Counselor?" "Every word, Ambassador. The entire Council is assembled in emergency session. We are processing the implications." High Commander Zareth's face appeared beside Thane's. "I recommend extreme caution. We know nothing about their weapons capabilities, their true intentions, their biology. If they traveled 200 years to reach us, what desperation or ambition drove them? Species do not cross centuries of void without powerful motivation. They could also represent an extraordinary opportunity, Lyran countered. They possess technology that surpasses ours by orders of magnitude. Technology we cannot begin to understand. If they intended harm, why announce themselves? Why wait at our border? Why learn our language and request permission? Thane's scales shifted through several colors as he weighed the decision, purple for deep thought, yellow for concern, finally settling on green for resolution. Grant them permission to dock at Research Station Omega-7. But I want security teams at maximum readiness, scientific teams prepared for biological analysis, and medical staff on standby. At the first indication of hostility, we respond with overwhelming force. Lyran switched back to the open channel. Pathfinder, this is Ambassador Lyran. The Kelthera Empire grants you permission to proceed to Research Station Omega-7. We will guide you to a docking port. Please follow our escort formation. Understood, Ambassador. We are grateful for your trust. We look forward to meeting you in person. Asterisk, the mysterious vessel came to life. Lights appeared along its hull, revealing intricate patterns that had been invisible before. Small thruster ports opened, releasing controlled bursts of blue-white energy. The ship began to move, following the shuttle with surprising grace for something that had crossed nearly 500 light-years of space dot as they traveled toward the station. Lyran found herself contemplating questions that seemed too vast for answers. What kind of species sent individuals on a journey spanning multiple generations? What dreams or necessities motivated them to leave everything familiar behind? What would humans look like? How would they think? Would they be so alien that communication beyond basic concepts proved impossible? The journey to Omega-7 took 6 hours. Throughout that time, the Pathfinder maintained perfect formation with the escort ships, demonstrating piloting skills that impressed even the most skeptical military observers. It made no aggressive moves, activated no weapon systems, simply followed precisely where directed. Asterisk. Research Station Omega-7 was a massive facility dedicated to studying xenobiology and advanced physics. It orbited a barren moon in the system's outer reaches, far enough from populated worlds to contain any potential contamination or threat. Its docking bays could accommodate vessels of various sizes and configurations. The Pathfinder maneuvered into Bay 12 with flawless precision. Docking clamps engaged. Pressure seals activated with hisses of equalizing atmosphere. On one side of the airlock stood Lyran, flanked by security personnel in full armor and scientific observers carrying every scanning device known to Kelthera science. On the other side, somewhere beyond that sealed door, waited the humans. Every screen across the Empire carried the live broadcast. Billions of beings watched, wondering what would emerge from that door. Would they be monstrous, beautiful, incomprehensible? Chief Scanner Vexus stood among the observation team, his datapad recording every sensor reading. The ship's interior showed normal pressure, breathable atmosphere, with oxygen-nitrogen ratios similar to Kelthera environmental preferences. Temperature readings indicated the humans preferred slightly cooler conditions than average. Everything seemed surprisingly compatible. The airlock light shifted from red to amber to green. Mechanical locks disengaged with metallic clicks that echoed through the bay. The door began to slide open with hydraulic smoothness. Two figures stepped through into the bright lights of the station. A collective intake of breath rippled through the observation team. The humans looked remarkably ordinary. They stood upright on 2 legs, had 2 arms, a single head with forward-facing eyes positioned above a nose and mouth. Their skin was pale with pinkish tones, their bodies covered in matching gray uniforms, marked with symbols that presumably indicated rank or function. The taller one, a male with short brown hair and striking blue eyes, stepped forward. He raised his right hand in what appeared to be a peaceful gesture and spoke in flawless Kelthera. I am Captain Marcus Chun of the Terran vessel Pathfinder. This is Chief Science Officer Dr. Sarah Okonkwo. On behalf of humanity and the people of Earth, we greet the Kelthera Empire and all species within it. We come in peace, seeking friendship, knowledge, and mutual understanding. Ambassador Lyran recognized the gesture from studying human broadcasts. She raised her own clawed hand in response. Welcome to Kelthera Space, Captain Chun. We have many questions. And we have many answers, Marcus replied with what appeared to be a human smile. Though I suspect some of them will surprise you, as much as your existence has amazed us. Sarah stepped forward, her dark eyes bright with barely contained enthusiasm. She was shorter than Marcus, with black hair tied back from her face, and she carried herself with the energy of someone who had waited their entire life for this moment. This exceeds every simulation we ran, every scenario we imagined, she said, her voice filled with wonder. To actually meet other intelligent species, to see your technology, your architecture, your incredible diversity, she gestured. The various Kelthera, Solvax, Morsith, and Gorlax personnel filling the bay. It is beyond words. They moved into a prepared conference chamber, where the council had arranged a formal reception. Foods and drinks from various Empire worlds filled tables. Representatives from all major species attended, their diverse forms creating a tapestry of biological evolution. Marcus and Sarah moved through the crowd with remarkable ease, showing no fear despite being surrounded by beings that must seem alien to them. They asked questions about each species, admired artwork, examined technology with respectful curiosity. It was Sarah who finally addressed the question everyone wanted answered but feared to ask. I know you must be wondering about our journey, she said, her voice carrying across the now quiet chamber. How we managed to travel so far, so fast. Our scientists developed what we call the Alcubierre-Morrison drive. We cannot exceed light speed. That remains impossible according to physics as we understand it. But we can compress space-time ahead of our vessel while expanding it behind us. The ship does not move faster than light. Rather, space itself flows around us, carrying us forward. Gasps and whispered conversations filled the room. Kelthera scientists had theorized about space-time manipulation for generations, but the energy requirements had always seemed insurmountable. The drive system required resources from our entire solar system, Marcus added, his expression growing serious. Every asteroid, every ice moon, every available material we could harvest went into building Pathfinder and synthesizing its fuel. The construction process took 93 years. Thousands of people worked their entire lives knowing they would never see the completion, never witness the launch, never know if the mission succeeded. Why? Asked Supreme Counselor Thane, who had joined the reception via holographic projection. Why undertake such an enormous effort? What drove humanity to invest generations of labor for uncertain reward? Marcus and Sarah exchanged glances. When Marcus spoke again, his voice carried a weight that transcended language barriers. Because we were dying. Not quickly, but inevitably. Our sun grows hotter in ways we cannot reverse. Our climate shifts beyond our ability to fully adapt. We faced a choice: accept slow extinction across millennia or reach for the stars. Humanity chose to reach. Sarah activated a portable display showing images of Earth, a beautiful blue world with white clouds swirling above brown continents and vast oceans. This is our home. We love it with every fiber of our being. But love alone cannot stop stellar evolution. We needed to know, are we alone in the universe? If not, could we learn from others? Could we find hope in connection rather than isolation? The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over everyone present. These humans had crossed nearly 5 centuries of space, not for conquest or expansion, but for survival and hope. They had invested unimaginable resources in a mission that their own generation would never benefit from, all for the sake of future generations they would never meet. We brought with us everything we could preserve, Marcus continued. Our history, our art, our science, our dreams. We hoped to find others among the stars. We hoped those others might be willing to share their knowledge, and perhaps someday help us find a new world to call home. Ambassador Lyran felt something shift in her chest, not fear, but something warmer. These humans were not invaders or threats. They were refugees of time itself, travelers who had sacrificed everything familiar for the possibility of connection. Supreme Counselor Thane's holographic form seemed to stand taller. When he spoke, his voice carried the authority of decision. Captain Shun, Dr. Okonkwo, on behalf of the Kelthera Empire and all species within our Federation, I officially welcome humanity to the galactic community. Your courage, your determination, your hope, these are qualities we admire deeply. You will not face your challenges alone. We will help you, learn from you, and walk forward together into whatever future awaits. Marcus and Sarah both showed visible emotion water gathering in their eyes, a phenomenon that Kelthera observers found fascinating. Sarah's voice cracked slightly as she responded. Thank you, Counselor. You cannot know what this means. For 217 years, we traveled through darkness, sustained only by hope that someone might be out there. Now we stand here, and that hope has become reality. The reception transformed from cautious diplomacy into genuine celebration. Species that had never met humans before gathered around the two travelers, asking questions, sharing food, exchanging ideas. Scientists eagerly discussed the Alkabir Morrison drive with Sarah, while military strategists spoke with Marcus about the challenges of long-duration space travel. Vexus stood at his observation post, watching the historic moment unfold. 3 days ago, he had detected an impossible vessel that threatened to shatter everything they understood. Now, watching humans and Kelthera laugh together, despite having just met, he realized the vessel had brought something far more valuable than technology or threat. It had brought hope. As the celebration continued, High Commander Zareth approached Ambassador Lyran. You were right to advocate for diplomatic contact. These humans could have been enemies, but they chose to be friends. Lyran watched Marcus demonstrate human gestures to a fascinated group of Sulvax younglings. They traveled further than we thought possible, survived longer than seems reasonable, and arrived seeking connection rather than conquest. Commander, I believe we have just witnessed the beginning of something extraordinary. Zareth nodded slowly. The galaxy just became larger and smaller simultaneously. Larger because we now know intelligent life exists at distances we never imagined reaching. Smaller because two species separated by nearly 500 light years just became neighbors. The impossible ship that had terrified an empire now sat peacefully in its docking bay. Inside the station, humans and Kelthera built bridges across the vast darkness that had separated them. And across 37 star systems, billions of beings looked up at the stars with new understanding. They were not alone. They had never been alone. And the universe, vast as it was, felt a little less cold knowing that somewhere out there, others looked back with the same wonder, the same hope, the same determination to reach across the darkness and connect.